You've reached the Signal Watch, movies, television, comics, and more. I'm your host, Ryan Steens. Join me and our cadre of co-contributors as we examine cultural artifacts of the 20th century, boldly explore the 21st, and try to put it all in perspective. Stay tuned. We're gonna try to make this work. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Signal Watch. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Steens, and with me today is...
Simon Day. Hello again.
And Simon, what movie have you inflicted upon me today?
Well, you know, I always like to start the new year by watching The Island with Michael Caine. I blame you for this, because we did Jaws the Revenge, which was Michael Caine in a kind of Peter Benchley rip-off. And then afterwards we did The Long Kiss Goodnight as well, and which kind of led to talking about Cutthroat Island, which kind of put pirates in my mind. And I went, I know a pirate film.
Written originally as a novel by
Peter Benchley. Yeah. He was kind of the 70s Michael Crichton. He, after Jaws hit really big, I guess everybody kind of went and said, you know, what else have you written?
Right.
And so they did The Deep in 1977. I think Zanuck and Brown did that as well, I think. I could be wrong.
Because they wanted to be in the Peter Benchley business.
The Benchley business. So I found out he got paid $1.25 million for The Island, the rights to The Island. And it's all up there on the screen, folks. But it's he also wrote the script, which is funny because, like, if you remember, for Jaws, he wrote a script and Spielberg went, "No, that's rubbish," and threw it away. Which is why he was a bit sulky about Jaws for a while. But this one, he wrote the script, and I would say you can tell he read the script in a not particularly good way.
It's so
pokey she whore. That's what I'm going to say.
It's pirate movies are difficult because you don't often see a movie about pirates. So there was kind of the glorious era of, like, you know, MGM pirates.
Crimson Pirate.
Right. And, you know, Captain Blood, and one of my favorites is Against All Flags, because Maureen O'Hara was this.
Hilariously, Hammer actually did about
my
4
mind is being
films.
Blown right now. They did pirate movies?
They've all got Christopher Lee in. He's normally playing the villainous captain. Okay. And Oliver Reed actually turns up in a small part, normally as his first in command.
Oh, that makes sense. And
I guess they're just like messing around in a pretty good pirate ship around the coast of Cornwall. But they're not bad. They're not bad for, you know, being set in England, you know.
So, you know, the original, of course, the OG of pirate movies is, or books, really, is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And if you've never read it, I highly recommend it. It's an excellent book, full of adventure.
And the Disney version from the, was it 50s?
Yeah. And it stars that kid who was in everything Disney was doing at the time.
Not Kurt Russell. But.
No, pre-Kurt Russell. They're prototype pre-Kurt Russell. And so the whole concept, you know, because Jim Hawkins in that is kind of your POV character. And so after that, you have this thing of, well, do you do a kind of movie like Captain Blood, where it's kind of about the pirates, or do you one where the pirates are kind of nasty, and it basically turns into The Hills Have Eyes on the Waves?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because this, on Wikipedia, this is described as a slasher film. And I was thinking, well, it isn't, for a start. But it's like, I can kind of see why somebody could make that mistake, especially if they only watch the first 5 minutes. Because it kind of like... And this is a problem I had with this film as well, in the fact that these pirates, especially David Warner, who's their kind of like pirate king, I guess, or leader, seem way too intelligent. And I'm not going to say nice, but maybe civilized. Whereas, but then they're also kind of stupid. They also don't seem to know anything about new technology, and they talk this gobbledygook.
Let's back up a little bit. If you haven't seen this, it takes place in modern day 1980 when it was released.
Yeah.
Michael Caine is a reporter who's trying to figure out why people are disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle, and he's not, it's the 80s, so we're not talking necessarily about UFOs or sea monsters. And so he goes down. His kid has been abandoned by his mother, who's run off to Dallas with her boyfriend, so he's got his kid for the weekend and tells him, we're just going to run down there. We'll go to Disney World if we have time.
Bratty kid. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of little tidbits, like the kid sitting there just reading a Playboy, and Michael Caine going, good articles.
Michael Caine's the worst father ever in this film. And, not kind of on purpose. He's just really bad. I mean, I
actually couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be on purpose or if they just thought this was cheeky or what the story was.
He just seems a bit disinterested in the kid, but he also seems to be pleasing the kid. It's almost like he's obviously divorced, so maybe he's trying to make too many amends and humour him a bit.
Yeah, he's being weekend dad.
But then it's like, he lets him read Playboy, and he has that great line where he goes, there's some really good articles in there. And then, he buys him a gun, which is like, this guy's 12, dude. It's like, and then he kind of takes him on a plane that blows up, the most dangerous plane ever. And then, of course, they end up getting kidnapped by pirates, which is kind of his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it does have this sort of Jim Hawkins sort of thing. It was, if you remember Treasure Island, he beat Jim Hawkins. Doesn't know Long John Silver is kind of the baddie, and so he kind of is friends with him. And so a lot of the book of Long John Silver, of Treasure Island, is like Long John Silver going, no, we're still friends, Jim. We're still friends. Yeah. I mean, I'll cut your throat if you do me wrong, but So it kind of goes. They do get kidnapped by these pirates who have apparently been on the same island in...
they still think it's the 1800s, I guess?
He says 300 years, so you're talking 1680 at this point, and which they also say it's the 16th century or something. It's one, I'm like, no, that would be like the 1500... Anyway.
It's moving around.
Yeah. So,
they've been there long enough to be inbred, so they appear to be kind of dying out, maybe, because there's no women. There's one very good-looking woman, and we don't see any others?
And you do. You see 3 other women, and they make a comment about, they all have something. I'm assuming they mean syphilis.
Yeah, because they look quite nice. Now you said that, I remember thinking they don't look too bad either. But then I guess they're so inbred that anytime they get pregnant, the baby just dies. Yeah. So they need fresh cane. They need a prawn cut of cane.
Yeah.
For a bit of thrusty.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a rated R movie, and it's these pirates who kind of lost, they speak English, sort of. It's kind of a weird mishmash of phrases, and they're all dumb as a bag of rocks, and so there's kind of this made-up pirate language they're using in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me laugh, because it is just kind of almost like you have all these English actors treating this like Shakespeare, and David Warner's the only one who kind of acts vaguely normal and kind of walks out this with any dignity, really. And the other ones are just like, Mr. Oh, Jack the Bat. And they're like, oh, no, Missy. And they're all kind of saying stuff like that, and you're just like, what are you guys doing? What the hell is going on here? I mean, I watched this for Michael Caine's face, because it's hilarious. Because, you can kind of tell, I'm not sure if he's realising what kind of film he's in, or just what's going on, but he's like, I don't remember this being in the script, kind of
But yeah, so Michael Caine falls into one of the piratey traps, and they're brought to the island, and the David Warner, the head pirate, kind of takes his son from him and basically has him brainwashed over the course of a few days while Michael Caine's out of pocket. And Michael Caine is given to...
He's basically as a kind of a sex slave to this, the only, I guess, the only woman who can get pregnant on the island, who also luckily happens to be quite good looking once she takes her mud face mask off. And she kind of falls in love with him slowly, I guess, over the film. But he just keeps like hilariously trying to escape and failing for the rest of the film, really.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it, really.
Which makes the movie feel very, very long in a very strange way. Because you keep thinking, oh, this is the end.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, he's got to do this all over again. Okay, well, he's doing it this time.
Take 2. Take 3.
Oh, he still hasn't escaped. And it just keeps kind of happening over and over.
I was thinking of, it kind of like gave me flashes of the It's Man from the start of Monty Python, where Michael Caine runs out of the sea with a big beard. It's Monty Python's Flying Circus. I mean, it's just, Michael Caine fights a jellyfish. And he goes off in a very small boat that sinks.
Yeah. So there's 2 kids. There's his son and there's another kid.
3 kids.
Oh, right. Yeah. And they've stolen off a boat. This other boy who'd been like a boat hand sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that kid is mad because he was supposed to be taken on as the next pirate king.
David Warner, very un-PC, says...
Oh, he's just racist about the whole thing.
He was my son, but sadly he Portuguese Zambo.
Yeah.
So I'm trading him in.
Yeah. It's
But that gives, I guess, that kid some jealousy to mess with the plot a little bit and try to get rid of Caine and his son.
Yeah. And then they've also have a whole scene where they end up kidnapping about a 13-year-old girl, and they're using her as basically bait.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind
to lure people in and to say, oh, let's save this girl who's floating in the water, which is how they get Michael Caine and his son.
And they also have, like, at one point there's a massive schooner that I guess are drugs running. They're running drugs. See, this is a bit unclear because it seems like a young yachting crew, but I guess they're all drug people.
I mean, that was one of those things that I got the feeling of, like, they had an idea of they wanted to be able to have ships with masts, like the pirates attacking a ship with masts, and it got away from them. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is a very loud kind of quiet if you're going to be running drugs.
Yeah.
Like, why would you use what's clearly like a museum piece of a ship?
Well, it also seemed like the drugs was only there to get the lifeguards to be there later. So they could
that was not for personal use, the drugs that were on the boat.
So they could finish the film, basically.
Yeah. It's like a crate of bags of cocaine with like weirdly like 7 guys and 1 girl. I'm like, guys, if you're running drugs, you're gonna clearly, I've seen the 80s. Yeah. You would have many more women around.
Yeah, to make it look less suspicious.
But then, just to have fun, as long as you're running drugs on a museum piece boat anyway.
But then the pirates don't seem bothered about that girl, because I would have thought they'd have taken her for breeding purposes.
They tried, but she makes a jump for it and they shoot her.
They just but I'm sure they could just
well, so there's this whole subtext of the movie of Michael Caine, I guess, is technically getting raped, although he's Michael Caine, so he's up for it with a bird, sort of thing. And
he's fully lubed.
Right. Yeah, she like rubs him down with pirate Crisco or something. It's very strange.
His glasses steam up.
But there's also, you're the whole time going, oh my god, there's a 13-year-old girl with all these guys. Like, like you're just like watching the movie with all this stuff they just don't say, because if they don't say it, then but.
And I am thinking there are kids and women around, so
there's no kids around. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. The doctor is helping them. Yeah, I mean they're bringing kids in.
Yeah, there's no natural born kids. I guess.
So also they've supposedly lived on this island for 300.
Who's the guy with the perm then?
Oh god, yeah. There's somebody who looks like he's clearly the guitarist for
the William Cass somewhere.
Yeah, beautiful curly hair, and like everyone's got, not everyone, but he has very smooth skin, as does David. So a few things where they kind of fell down on this, right? These people supposedly lived on this island for 300 years, but nobody's built any structures. They're just sleeping amongst the brambles. Yeah, like it's like. It does rain in the tropics. Someone would have thought at some point to build something to put a roof over their heads. There'd be something here. There would also be garbage everywhere. because these guys are pirates and they steal things, and now they don't know what the things are, like stereos and TVs, and they do that a little bit in one scene. But I'm like, if these guys have taken 600 boats, which is the number they give, the amount of garbage they would have around that island, it would just be completely covered in garbage.
Well, also they seem to not understand what a padlock or flare gun is, but then when the script necessitates it, they can use automatic weapons.
Oh yeah.
But then normally they just use kind of sticks and stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, you guys should switch over if you've got these now.
Yeah, it's and also like some of the pirates are very, very pale. And I'm just like, wait, you don't have any structures on a tropical island.
Well, what's that bit where Michael Caine tries to escape? I think for the second time, or maybe the first time. I think it's the jellyfish bit. Mm-hmm. But obviously the pirates have just got out of bed, and a couple of them are like fully dressed, kind of normal. But then a couple of them are totally naked, except they're wearing their satchels.
Yeah,
and you're just
they're
like
penis hiding satchels.
So you had time to put your satchel on it. If you had time to put your satchel on, you could have put some pants on. Come on.
Also, send somebody who has pants if you haven't got your pants on yet, because you are running through the woods. You're going to want to cover some of that. Michael Caine also never has to shave over the course of what I figure is about 2 weeks.
That's very true. I hadn't thought of that.
He just remains clean shaven throughout.
I just like any film that makes a middle-aged Michael Caine exert himself. I find kind of amusing, because he obviously doesn't really like doing that. He's not like a Sean Connery or whatever, but it's like, but yeah, he just spends this entire film trying to run away, which is hilarious, and getting sweatier and more irate, and then I think the end of this film is great, because it's almost like narratively it works, but just for the viewer, it's like let's just get rid of all these fucking pirates. By kind of like having a Rambo type ending, basically.
I mean, I think they were trying. He was allowed to like vent his rage in that, but it also does raise the question of when the Coast Guard ship with the 50 whatever caliber, I don't know anything about guns, this massive machine gun, right, is mounted to the side of this boat.
Yeah,
and okay, I can see like the first couple of guys get killed, but the second that happens, you're talking it's daytime on a boat crawling with guys, and they go to general quarters, which means everyone knows where they're supposed to be at this point.
Yeah,
and
there's no alarm. Nobody pressed an alarm.
They do press an alarm.
Oh,
they hit general quarters. They're making an announcement. Somehow, though, these like 4 pirates and their machine guns are able, despite the fact there's these massive machine guns on the boat, it's just not a fight. Like all of the Coast Guard guys get absolutely murdered, even though there's also lots of places to hide on a boat.
Because I mean the previous attacks we've seen, I mean not only have been on civilians, but they've been normally at night, normally stealth, and without really any chance of anybody defending themselves. And I kind of do like the fact that the pirates have small boats, which I think is actually I kind of read is more realistic to history than them, riding about on these huge galleons. They actually did attack people with little boats. So I think there's a lot of stuff in here that's good, but yeah, the end stretches disbelief, and also the fact that they're not that far from the mainland. I mean, somebody actually says they're like 10 miles away.
No, they were only 10 miles from Navidad.
Okay.
Well,
but Michael Caine gets there pretty quickly, doesn't he?
Well, he doesn't know. He was knocked out when he was taken over there, but he does.
Because it seems like a really busy waterway. And they just keep sailing out and grabbing people.
And you do kind of the 80s. This was probably filmed in 78, 79.
Yeah. So there's no satellite. There's no kind of GPS. Any of that.
I mean, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go look up what was actually available.
Because it's almost trying to pull King Kong, but it's like even by the 70s, I think in King Kong they kind of get around it by saying, we know this island's never been on the charts, but I feel like in this film it's like everybody seems to be sailing past it every day pretty regularly.
Yeah, and if people keep disappearing in this one little area, and they try and make some excuses for it, like, oh, people always say their boat sank or whatever, but it's like, but the thing is, people would miss people. Like, there's like these rich American tourists who are getting like massacred. Like, if rich American tourists keep disappearing, eventually the Coast Guard's gonna not just be like, I don't know. You know, they're gonna actually start patrolling around there and trying to figure out what happened. Also, because the water around that whole area is crystal clear. Yeah. Like, if you ever fly over that area, you can see underwater, like, as you're flying over. Like, you would see the sunk boats. You would see all of these things. And so it's, anyway, you know, it is, they needed to do what they needed to do to tell the story they felt they needed to tell. Did the story need to be told?
Well, I think so. So Universal thought this was going to be their big summer hit of 1980. And off the back of, you know, like I say, Peter Benchley, director was actually Michael Ritchie, who's kind of had an interesting career, because he kind of did a couple of really interesting Robert Redford films, like Downhill Racer and The Candidate, and then in the 80s he did Fletch.
Oh, okay.
The Fletch movies with Chevy Chase, and The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. So, you know, not your first choice really for this kind of film. Maybe he fancied a holiday in the Caribbean, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like, it's just a very, very strange. I mean, I think it's a much better concept than it is put in practice.
I think honestly, it's not.
I'd like to read the book. Actually,
it's not badly directed. I wouldn't say that. I think they take some chances with what they're doing, kind of go for that Hills Have Eyes things with the pirates.
Well, I was going to say, though, because what I was going to say earlier was, I think, you know, they were almost a bit too nice and civilized. And David Warner, you know, was like, you know, I'm looking for a son. I feel like maybe they should have gone the other way and had them a bit more Hills Have Eyes, a little bit more inbred and a bit more, you know, crazy. You know, almost like animalistic.
I mean, it would have been a different movie. I think they were trying to do the thing of, like, they have pirate law still. You know, they have these rules, and they have, you know, these old things that have been passed down of, you're the doctor, ship's doctor. You're the
eminent Dr. Brazil.
You're the pirate king. You're the keeper of law, and so people do have these specific roles. You can see from pirate movies,
well, they keep Caine alive, don't they? Because they think he's a descendant of a real Maynard, a real captain who fought Blackbeard, and that's what they mistake him for, I think. So
I couldn't figure out if they just thought that, or that's what the real doctor, whoever from the island, who was living in the bunker.
No, I think when he says Maynard, they were like, ooh, you know, Maynard.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you're dealing with these guys who would only have the context of, like, their own oral histories, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. Their world for them is this island and a few other islands, and, you know, maybe 20 square miles of ocean.
Yeah. They're not well travelled,
right? I mean, I didn't really have too much of a beef with.
I've been to Disneyland.
with it, other than it was just like, well, none of this seems to, you know, kind of pass the does this actually make any sense test. And so you kind of have to just accept that this is the premise, but then they kind of keep tripping over themselves with all of these, like, does that make sense sort of stuff. So I think the book would be interesting to see, because I bet in the book he also doesn't have this extended fight with the David Warner character at the end. I'm betting he just machine guns them, or my real guess is if they do attack a Coast Guard ship, the rest of the Coast Guard shows up and cleans house. Yeah. Which would make the most sense, and that's probably in a movie now what they would do, and the hero would stand there sadly realizing, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's got this weird way of. What was the movie we watched where you were like, everybody's talking over each other? Oh, actually, no, it's Jaws the Revenge, wasn't it? But it's not interesting. And it's like, I feel like that was in this as well. Like, a little bit with the kind of like the rich Americans, who are all assholes. They're all drawn to look like assholes. All the people get killed at the start. Because, like, that's one hell of a fish you bought. That is a fish I bought, buddy. like, hey, and they're just like doing that, and then like later on, the Coast Guards, who I think are played by real Coast Guard people because they're really bad
don't
actors.
come off as actors at all, yeah.
But they're like, they're doing the same thing, and as the credits roll, this pointless conversation goes on and on and on over the credits, a little bit like Jaws with Revenge, about what's down there? It looks like pirates. Did you say pilots? No, I said pirates. So that's pilots down there? No, I said pirates. Do you mean old-fashioned pirates? You're like, shut up! I want to listen to Ennio Morricone.
All you needed to see was the helicopter in that shot to know, okay. But it does leave a lot of questions because it ends with, the pirates are all massacred. Back on the island, you're going to have a few people still living, the women. His wife. And I would love to see the sequel. Yeah. Where they've fallen in love at this point.
Takes her to Disneyland.
And they move back. He moves her back to New York with him.
Be like Crocodile Dundee.
Right. And now they also have this son that's living with them who's murdered all kinds of people.
He could just be like in bed like The Exorcist, just like laying there staring blankly.
Yeah, it was a little disturbing to see.
Don't tell your mother, Justin, that you're a mass murderer.
Right, so he keeps telling his son at the beginning, just tell your mother. So yeah, there's this...
Put a gun down your pants.
Right. So there's all this stuff at the beginning. It takes a while to get going. Like, they have to go to the gun shop, which is totally pointless.
They have to go to the gun shop.
Yeah. So you have this whole sequence where that was like, okay, they're showing that Michael Caine knows how to shoot a gun, which never comes up again.
I was in Korea. Just keep saying that. It says that about 3 times. Just say we're ready for the end, I think.
Right. I guess he does shoot a gun finally, which, by the way, you can tell totally in that scene.
He's like
yeah, he is not able to handle that gun as it's firing at all.
It looks like one of the Muppets.
Yeah. But they also have this whole crazy scene that doesn't go anywhere, of them coming in on this plane that the wheels don't come down.
That's almost like a little comedy sketch by itself, but it's not funny. It's just like a bit disturbing.
Yeah.
Because you got this pilot who starts off kind of funny, but a bit sleazy, but then turns into a huge dick, who basically, I guess it's not really his fault, but they have to like crash land.
Yeah.
But then he just runs off. And then,
he also runs off, but then they show the door opening after he's run off.
So he's closed the door after he's run off.
I couldn't figure out at all where. Yeah, it was just strange. But then
he's laying down, and like kind of like he's like, I'm all right. And then Michael Caine's like, you bastard,
But it was just a bizarre scene. It didn't add anything to the story. They could have just had them go to the island, look around for a while, and meet this doctor.
I think it's supposed to be injecting some action, I think it's just like some excitement.
They could have just moved the story forward and gotten to the action.
Yeah. Well, I know in the book, the old guy who tells him about the area, but then turns out to be working with the pirates, he had a much bigger part in the book, I think.
I wouldn't doubt it, yeah.
Which kind of, I can see him explaining a lot more, in the book. Because in the film, all he really says is, do you know how lucky you are seeing like a living social experiment like this? And that's about it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also was waiting for whatever weird perverted thing the guy was going to say about what he was up to, but I think you had to really get to the 90s before they were willing to go there in a movie.
What do you mean?
Oh, just like you find out he's banging all the pirates or what, like... Like, what's he getting out of this?
Selling the drugs.
Or selling the drugs, or whatever thing that they were going to do. But it's like he has no motivation for doing any of this other than...
Got a flare gun out of it.
I mean, he just likes the fact that they're out here and wants people to return to nature. And it's like, but clearly things aren't going well.
Yeah.
So why there's no explanation for why this is actually a thing that you would want to support. And so I'm like, I can see if like he has a secret family here, or he's using them to cover up his own activities or whatever, but it just the motivation seems super
like
super
his son's
weak.
One of them or something like that.
Yeah, something like that would have made some sense.
Yeah, because then it would be more Dr. Moreau-ish, wouldn't it, really? It's
but just the way they set it up was
well, Michael Caine has a great one line where he goes like, aren't you impressed by them? Are they magnificent? And Michael Caine goes, a bunch of arseholes playing Long John fucking Silver.
I mean, I think it might have even been more interesting had they said it's not 300 years of inbreeding. If they would have said these are people who were, escaped from prison, or
a colony or something.
Or one by one, these people have just kind of drifted into this from being drug dealers or whatever, and like they've taken it on as this lifestyle rather than trying to pass off this 300 years of history thing.
Well, they do, yeah. Because when he first gets captured, he kind of says, "Are you a cult or something?" And I'm thinking they could really just have done modern day pirates, except I guess it wouldn't have been as exciting. I mean,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not. This exactly brought the excitement, because you just end up asking so many questions of like, why is any of this happening, while you're watching the movie.
I mean, this cost 22 million and it made 15.7 million.
Ooh, tough summer for Universal.
And actually it was nominated for the first ever Razzie for director and film, I think, which I think is a little bit unfair.
I do too.
I don't think it's that bad. In fact, I think, like I say, Ennio Morricone does a great score, which actually makes me feel a bit sympathetic to the pirates, I think, at the end. I feel like, they didn't really deserve to be mown down like that. But yeah, just a very odd film. And, Peter Benchley would go on to carry on writing maybe to more and more diminishing returns, because I think in the 80s he actually did I definitely read Beast, which was about pretty much Jaws but with a giant squid.
Oh, right.
And then he also did Creature, which was about some kind of half man half sea monster thing that basically stalked around, kind of like Humanoids of the Deep, stalked around a coastal town eating people. So I think he plumbed this as far as he could when it comes to anything from the sea. But I just love this because it's Michael Caine in his I'll do anything for money period, which kind of, I guess, spanned from about late 70s to maybe late 80s. And he did, of course, in there he managed to do some good films as well, but it's definitely in there with The Swarm and Beyond the Poseidon Adventure and The Hand and Jaws the Revenge. And it's basically just him running around looking sweaty, looking upset.
I mean, you do know he's going back to a 5-star resort every night, and that makes me feel good for Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Because apparently his wife's a delight, so you just get to imagine him coming back at he knocks off at 4:00 every day, because they shot day for night through a good chunk of this. And also, by the way, the pirate camp at night is incredibly well lit. But
what did you do today, dear? Today I got lubed up.
Yeah.
And then fought a jellyfish, wrestled a jellyfish. I'm a proper actor. Yeah.
But yeah, that warms my heart, knowing that was Michael Caine's month or two in the tropics. So
I mean, just being led about on a collar by a chain on his collar is quite amusing. But it's a very interesting film. So my history with this film is I bought this on video cassette just on the strength of Michael Caine back in about 2000.
That's my new favorite thing. I bought this on the strength of Michael Caine.
Who's let me down so many times. But it's Michael Caine, and he and I used to watch this. This was like a drinking film for me. Me and my mate used to for a while go through let's kind of get drunk and watch a bad film.
Yeah.
And this one was hysterical when we were drunk. I think less so when you're sober.
I don't know. It was checking a lot of boxes for me when I was sober. So,
but actually, so years after, about 2011, I won a Choose Your Own Pancake with this as well.
Oh wow!
And somewhere on YouTube, hopefully it's not still on there, but somewhere on YouTube for a while was a video of them dressing me as Michael Caine for the bit in the middle on stage.
Oh no!
And they were all dressed as the pirates and basically trying to do pokey pokey and thrusting at me. So I have a lot of a lot of love for this film. Still better than Cutthroat Island.
That's our bar. That's where we're working from now. Yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's not, but you're going to walk away with more questions than answers.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. I feel like, the pirates would have been discovered. They seem intelligent, but then they also seem unable to use some modern appliances and modern things and technology. And then in the end, I think, the Coast Guard would have just wiped them out very easily.
They didn't have roofs. I can't
get past that.
Yeah, it's like
Swiss Family Robinson had roofs.
Right. Well, I mean, even the hut that he's doing thrusty in.
Tarzan's dad had a roof at the start of Tarzan.
Right. Even that is just a bunch of sticks piled into kind of a hut shape. You can still see daylight through it, and it's like, it rains in the tropics. At some point, these people would want to get out of the rain.
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of a failure of imagination on like the art director or somebody's, or they were in a piece of land where they're like, well, you can't build any structures here or something.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what the story is, why they decided, yes, this looks like a place people have lived for 300 years.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem almost like, when you're a kid and you kind of play camp with your guy friends.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically just like, you hang around by some trees, really, and maybe build a campfire. Because like you say, it didn't really make any sense. I mean, if they've been there for that long, and there's quite a few of them, there's got to be at least, 40, 50 of them?
Yeah.
They should be established in some way. But then there's a massive explosion when Michael Caine blows up their one small hut.
Yes.
Using only what? I mean,
he had a keg of gunpowder for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Where they got the gunpowder, you don't know.
Yeah, because who has gun? Because okay, they're pirates, fair enough. But who's still using gunpowder for them to steal?
A wooden barrel of gunpowder at that.
Well, also, like, early on, I'm not saying it's theirs, but, like, the son finds a pellet, doesn't he? He finds a cut from a...
So there is this thing of they're still using muskets.
Yeah.
And where they're getting metal from, how these guns have survived for 200 years.
So they go and pick up the ball afterwards because they haven't got enough.
Yeah, it's... yeah, that's the kind of movie it is. I don't know what else to say. The woman who was in it, I both felt for her and felt she was okay.
She-whore.
Oh, God. Yeah. Look, we're just quoting the movie at this point. It was ridiculous, and
she was very nice. She kept trying to help Michael Caine escape.
But she didn't really do anything else. I mean, she was into a bunch of TV stuff.
Well, she just ran off, didn't she? At the end, she saw that he'd lit the fuse, and she ran off, and that's the last time we see her.
Yeah, which is why I want that sequel.
Yeah,
I want to see her in the streets of New York.
You want to see basically My Fair Lady with Michael Caine in New York.
Oh my God, that is exactly what I want.
With a Randy Pirate Lady. Take her to the lube shop, show her some sights.
I just want to see her like she still hasn't quite figured out how to speak correctly, but she's like a society lady now in New York. Could be
a bit like Splash as well, where he takes her to a restaurant and she just like bites a fucking crab instead of using her silverware,
So many possibilities. We're going to start working on this screenplay immediately. We're going to self-produce this. Is David Zucker still alive? Ring him up. The Island 2.
He's spinning in his grave.
She-Whore Takes Manhattan.
Well, thank you for watching this. I appreciate it. It's a very strange film, and I thought of you. I have to give a shout out to the guy who sets his head on fire before he attacks anybody. Which I would think would hold you back.
Did you know Blackbeard would put he'd tie things into his beard and set them on fire.
Oh.
So when he showed up on a boat, he's got 2 pistols. I'm not making this up. And a sword, and his face is on fire.
His beard's on fire.
Yeah, and apparently scared the living crap out of the people who he was robbing.
How? Because I'm thinking you couldn't do that often because you'd run out of beard.
Apparently, it was something slow burning, so it was basically just really smoking.
Okay.
So he just had this like billow of smoke around him.
That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty
look it up.
Atmospheric.
That was in like North Carolina. So
yeah. Unless you can't see what he's doing, it's like smoke all over the place. It's like crying.
He had to have a guy with a big fan behind him all the time.
Make sure which way there's a wind going before I light the beard up.
Don't let me go the wrong way again, Percy. That'd be awesome. All right. Well, I think that's probably plenty to say about the island. We've talked almost as long as the movie was, I think. But thanks for joining us. Do watch this movie if you've not seen it before. It's a delight.
Definitely check it out. It's very interesting. Only pretty recently on Blu-ray. And yeah, if you're a Caine completist or Michael Benchley completist, don't miss out. I'm trying to do that seriously.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Started losing a bit at the end there. So the tagline, I forgot to say the tagline.
Oh, go ahead.
The tagline was, the scariest thing in the water this summer is the island. Which doesn't even really make any sense, but...
That about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, we invite you to drop on by the Signal Watch blog, where you'll find write-ups of a wide variety of movies and more. You can drop comments on this podcast and let us know what you think. We do have a Signal Watch Patreon, and if you're so moved, we'd most certainly appreciate your support. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So, until next time, God damn it, babies. You've got to be kind.